Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here with us today for another episode of Artists in Residences. My name is Jason Andreessen. I'm the Executive Director for Baton Rouge Gallery. It is a pleasure to have you with us, and it's a pleasure to have three great artists with us. We'll tell you more about them in just a minute. But before I want to do anything, if you're new to Artists in Residences, if you haven't seen this program before, this is a twice-a-week check-in with artists of all kinds, where we get to during a time where we can invite you into our space at the gallery, we've got some great artists who are willing to invite you into their spaces. Like I said, this is a twice-a-week check-in, so we do this on Tuesdays and on Fridays. The Tuesday, typically two artists who have a common thread between their work, whether it's subject matter or the media they use. But those are great discussions. Please tune in for those. And then on these Friday shows, we do it more like a late night talk show style, in the sense that there are two guests and then a performer of some sort. So we'll speak to visual artists and then close things out with a musician or a poet or somebody else in our community who is making art and sharing art. I want to say a quick word of thanks to our partner for more than 30 years in BREC, the Parks and Recreation Commission for East Baton Rouge Parish. They have been a great supporter of the gallery since 1984, giving us our wonderful home in City Park that we hope to get back to very soon. And I'll mention something about that in just a second as well. But BREC is an incredible partner of ours and has been for a long time, doing things for recreation, conservation, and the arts throughout Baton Rouge. So we're thrilled to partner with them. Another word of thanks to our members and our donors. You see the ticker at the bottom of the screen. If you are not already a member or donor, that's the best way to do it. You can go to batonrougegallery.org. You'll see a donate button up in the corner. There's also batonrougegallery.org/join, where you can become a member. And something new that we just rolled out recently is you can be a member either on an annual basis or you can be a member on a monthly basis. And the monthly memberships are something that we're hoping makes it even easier for everybody to join, for everybody to be a part of the gallery in some way. Monthly memberships start at $5 a month. It's a great way. If you've come to the first Wednesday openings or different programming at the gallery, I hope you'll agree that you've gotten more than $5 out of the $5 a month out of those events. And we're looking forward to getting back to those soon. But our members and our donors, those are the people that really have made it possible for us as an organization to withstand a situation like this, to keep our staff in place, and to keep programming like what we're doing here today possible. So thank you to every single one of our members and donors for making so much possible at the gallery. We could not appreciate it more. So I mentioned our home in City Park and a desire to get back to that. Well, I'm happy to give you a little bit of an update in that the gallery will be reopening soon. I know a lot of organizations, a lot of institutions around town are opening back up, and we are looking forward to doing so. We will be opening back up for the first time, believe it or not, on a first Wednesday. On June 3rd, we will open the gallery back up during normal gallery hours, which is 12 to 6 every day but Monday. The gallery will remain free and open to the public, though there will be some modifications to how you enter the gallery. We will be requiring masks for everybody who comes in. We will also make masks available and gloves for anybody who comes to the gallery and does not have hand sanitizer, for anybody who needs or wants to sanitize their hands. And obviously, we're going to be encouraging everybody to do so. We'll be encouraging everybody to practice physical distancing of at least 6 feet. And we're going to limit the number of people who are coming into the gallery at any one time. And we're actually going to be a little more aggressive than that, because we want to make than the guidelines that have been set forth by our elected officials. We want to be as careful and as protective of you, the visitor, and of our staff and any artists who might be present in the gallery at any one time. We want to make sure that everybody is as safe as we can possibly make them. So the limitation, instead of the 25%, we're actually going to go with 25 people. Hopefully the square footage, the space that we have at the gallery will make that, like I said, as safe a circumstance as we can possibly provide to you. But it will be an opportunity for you to come and see artwork from local, area, regional artists of all types. We'll have over 24 artists showing during the month of June for a special group show that we're putting together right now. And like I said, that will open on June 3rd. So we will not have a first Wednesday opening reception, but we will be having a first Wednesday opening. And we are thrilled. We are looking forward to having, all of us, our staff back in the gallery, as well as art back on the walls, because it's been a little while since we've had that. So we're looking forward to that. And like I said, our members, our donors, you guys are what make that possible for us to do, both during a time like we're dealing with now with quarantines and pandemics, but also outside of times like this, where it's a normal month, or a quote unquote normal, I guess, a time where we're inviting as many people as possible to come together to share the same space and hopefully have a shared experience with art at the gallery. So thank you for those members and donors who might sign up today and help us keep that going at the gallery. One of the artists that we're going to hear from today, his name is Davis Kelley. And Davis, the reason that we have him on today is because he was a participant in our Flat Curve Gallery. If you're not familiar, the Flat Curve Gallery is an online portal where we can share the work of artists in our community and beyond it. To date, we've had over 500 artists be a part of that effort, making art, sharing art. We've had everybody from 2-year-olds to professional artists who have work in the permanent collection of major museums across America. It's been a fantastic project for us to work on, and we hope that it has been for those of you who have participated already. We hope that more of you will jump on board. You can find out more about that at the gallery's website. But that is a project that is intentionally open-ended. So it is the only restriction, literally the only rule about the Flat Curve Gallery is that the work that you share with us has to have been created since March 13th, when the pandemic was declared a national emergency. Aside from that, it is fair game. It is open to everybody. So you'll learn more about Davis, and if you're following us on Facebook or on Instagram, you'll see plenty of works that have been submitted to us. We normally share somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 to 8 per day. So please, if you haven't already, follow us there so that you can keep up with the things that are coming through the Flat Curve Gallery. And if you are creating work, if your child is creating work, if a neighbor is creating work, anybody, please encourage them to share their work. There are no costs associated with it. It's just a way for us to encourage people to stay home as much as they can, or as much as it's feasible, and to be creating work and sharing work with those of us in the community. So we'll get to Davis in a minute, but first I want to start with one of the gallery's longtime artist members, a celebrated, a decorated visual artist, and more. We'll talk about that. But if you would, please join me in welcoming Malaika Favorite.
Hello, hi everyone.
Hi Malaika, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Awesome, thank you so much for taking the time to be here. I really do appreciate it. And if anybody is watching live on Facebook, we will be fielding questions. So you can feel free to leave a question in the comment section, and we can pass that right along to Malaika here and hopefully get an answer to your question if you have one. But Malaika, I want to first just start off with a blanket introduction, if you don't mind. Tell us a little bit about yourself and about your artwork.
Okay, basically I've been painting for ever since I graduated from college, and this has been like the cornerstone of my life, just constantly making art and producing it and showing it and sharing it with everyone and anyone who's interested in looking. I worked in Baton Rouge for a long time, taught at Grambling State University. Then from there, moved back to Baton Rouge. Then from Baton Rouge, I got married, moved to Georgia, and I lived in Atlanta for 11 years, did a lot of work there, and then moved to Augusta, Georgia, and did work there, and then moved back to Baton Rouge in 2016. So here I am.
Wow. And you have been a part of the gallery. You joined most recently just a few years ago, but you were a part of the gallery going back into the 90s, right?
That's true. I was in the gallery when it was on downtown 3rd Street. In fact, I used to, in my spare time, I would sit at the gallery when Mary could not be there. So I was, a constant member as well as participating in the programs there.
That's great. Yeah, for those of you who may not be aware, the gallery has called City Park home since 1984, like I mentioned, because of our partners at Breck. But before that, the gallery actually started in the mid 1960s, and we had a number of different venues that we called home. So that's what Malaika is referencing there, where she was a part of the gallery even before Breck was and before City Park was. So I know it's been an honor for us as an organization to watch you grow and see your art change over the years. But it's certainly a pleasure to have your work at the gallery nowadays. One of the things that people might have noticed about your work, and I guess more specifically your exhibitions, is the amount of work that you show. I know the last time that you showed, I wasn't able to be there for the installation of the show. And when I walked in, it felt like I was just being overrun or inundated with color when I walked in. Can you talk about the process of hanging work, of planning out a show, of deciding what you're going to hang and where you're going to hang it and all those kinds of things?
It's really difficult because I always have a tendency to make more than I need, but that's just me. I create a lot of work during the year between shows, and then it's hard for me to decide what to leave out and what to put in. So I just bring a lot of work to the gallery, line it up along the wall to see how much I can include with the space I'm given. And sometimes it's not as much space as I want, and but I get in a lot of it, and so that works out pretty good. The first time I came back, I did it all by myself, and I had these huge paintings, and I had to get help getting them from one spot to the other. Next time I had help, I think Kelsey and some other people were there to assist me, and so gradually, I began to understand what I needed to do. But usually, I tend to get involved in trying to figure out what would create what I'm trying to say in the show, what statement I'm making, and whether or not the work I'm putting in the show relates to that statement. And that's my main focus in setting up the show. And then once I kind of know where I'm going with the statement, I can select the works that best describe or fit in with what the statement is about.
So because you are so prolific, because you are seemingly always creating and always working on something, I'm wondering, I feel like I have to ask you the question of how has COVID, how has this pandemic, how has quarantining impacted your ability to create? Has it, I feel like for some artists, it has led to some creative paralysis. For others, it's just more time in the studio. How has this situation that we're all kind of in impacted your ability to make work?
Well, I'm fortunate in that my gallery is right in the backyard, so I didn't have to worry about going downtown to a building that may or may not be available to me. So that helps a lot. And the other advantage is that one of my mottos is to turn adversity into advantage. Whenever things are going against me, I've put washboards up all around my studio to remind me that when I didn't have money, I didn't have supplies, I had washboards, and I worked with those washboards to create art, and that really moved me to a national level with my work. And so I put up washboards as a reminder that these humble washboards were nothing until I did something with them. So I'll just find whatever is there, and I'll turn that disadvantage into an advantage. And so with the virus, I asked myself, so here's a disadvantage, but the advantage is that I have time to work. I'm not going anywhere. I'm just here. So let me take advantage of that situation.
Okay. So what I'd like to do now is share some examples of your work for those who may not be familiar. And I'll just cycle through a few images, and feel free to just comment either on individual pieces or kind of the technique that maybe you used.
Okay.
Anything in particular you want to mention about these works?
Okay. Well, this series, this is a large painting I received the grant from the the Division of Arts in Atlanta to do a series of paintings based on the Negro National Anthem, Lift Every Voice and Sing. So in this series, I incorporated the words of the hymn in each painting. So I did about 60 paintings about that hymn, and each one I illustrated those particular words. So that this particular one is lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. And so each of the paintings in the series was just an inspiration based on that hymn, the Negro National Anthem.
Gotcha. And I will cycle to the next image. Now this is a piece where you use kind of the washboards that you were referencing before, right?
Right. And this was a piece I created for a show I had at the West Baton Rouge Museum in 2018, I think it was. And this is called Washboard City. And like I said, I had all these washboards. Also, I have a lot of corrugated tin that I use in my work, because I found that after working with the washboards, anything and everything could turn into something amazing. And so and it was like a challenge, you know, how can I make this thing work and become something that it is not? So this is like a group of washboards put together on the piece of tin, and then united it to create this little world of people who were women who were washerwomen and their reality.
Gotcha. As I cycle through some of these pieces, can you talk a little bit about your willingness to go beyond, whether in the case of this piece, you're clearly willing to go beyond kind of the rectangle of maybe the panel or canvas that you're working on, but you're also willing, kind of like with the washboard pieces that you shared, you're also willing to go beyond using a single media within a piece. Can you talk about your willingness or your flexibility in terms of when you're creating work or where you're planning work out?
Sure. It's all about having fun. The thing I like about being an artist is that it never seems like work to me. This is just, enjoying a process and just exploring, what can I do with this? And the challenge, and what I learned about just working with a canvas was that you were limited to rectangle or square. And so I wanted to get away from just being stuck with rectangle or square, and I wanted to explore, relief, as in this piece, so that it comes off the surface, or that it goes beyond the surface of the canvas, and just see how much I can do to get away from that concept that a painting has to be a rectangle or a square format. And I moved in that way, and it made the work more exciting to me, and also more exciting to the people who are looking at it. So I challenge myself by collaging as much as I can into the piece. Like if you notice in this piece, some of that is collage photographs that I took myself, and at the top that's collage pieces from art history, and collage pieces of cloth that I use, that cloth that I painted on. So I'm just sort of exploring what I find around me, adding things from my environment into the painting. Mm-hmm. And for instance, this one, the pig, my father was a pig farmer for a long time, and so that was a part of my reality. And I did a block print of the pig, which you see in the forefront. That brown area is actually the block, and the print is the figure in the background. So I was collaging the prints from this series onto paper, and then collaging that onto the next canvas. And again, it was the idea that everything, you don't just limit something to one media. So it's a block, and then it becomes a print, and then it becomes a collage piece of art. And the actual pig itself, the wooden block, then becomes a sculpture piece. So you keep it evolving.
Yeah. So, and this is another piece where you can see that glove is a collaged element as well. But before we kind of end this segment of the show, I wanted to ask you a question that comes from the In the Studio visit video that we shot with you recently. If anybody hasn't seen it, it's up on YouTube. It's called In the Studio with Malaika Favorite. It's a very short, about a 1.5-minute long video. But in the video, you were preparing works for the last exhibition that you had at the gallery. And one of the comments that you made was really striking to me. And you mentioned, and I'm going to paraphrase and probably butcher your far more eloquent statement, but the statement was something along the lines of you were exploring ancestors as a symbol and not necessarily focusing in on the ancestor as an individual, but focusing in on them as a symbol or as a placeholder for an entire culture, an entire people, and trying to investigate or think about your background as an African American and the different cultures that are a part of your own history and lineage. And if I've butchered the intent of the comment, please feel free to correct me. But can you speak a little bit about that effort and that thought process?
Sure. I was working on a series, and this was a part of I received a grant from the Puffin Foundation for this series, and the series was that I wanted to explore. We usually, when we talk about our ancestors, people usually paint about our Black ancestors, people from the past. But I know that my father's father was not a Black person, and we don't know who the person was, and we don't know the situation. But there was always a debate in the family about this person. So I was always wondering, what about those people? Who are they? And not necessarily like searching ancestry, but who are they historically speaking? So I started looking at art history and thinking, these people could be related to me or related to somebody I know. And when you go in the museum and you see the portrait gallery, all the portraits are of white people who were slave owners, who had plantations and so forth. And we weren't there. And so I thought, well, I'm going to borrow some of these people from art history and incorporate them as possible ancestors. And it was like a challenge for me to see how I could say, who is this person? Maybe this person is related, or maybe they're related to somebody I know. So it was kind of like a debate that I was carrying on, not in writing, but in imagery, in art. And and I'm still working on it. I'm still adding to that series. Only I had to pause a little because of COVID-19. I had to make my comments about that as well.
Sure. Well, if anybody is interested in seeing more of Malaika's work, you can certainly do so at the link found here. Thank you to Jonathan, one of our staff members, for making that easily available to me.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Yes, but not only there can you see available works of Malaika's if you're interested in adding some of her work to your own collection, but you can also see the video that I referenced and kind of get a look inside Malaika's studio as she's preparing for an exhibition. There's so much, we're running out of time, but there's so much more we could talk about. For anybody who's not familiar with Malaika, in addition to being a visual artist, she's also an accomplished and published poet. And perhaps we'll have to have her back on here another time to share her poetry. Malaika, any last thoughts from you that you want to share with folks, either about your work or anything?
Well, I'm just excited that the gallery will be opening back up. I'm hoping that we'll be able to have regular shows and that my show will happen in September, which I believe it will. And yes. I just hope that people will not give up on art, but that they'll see art as a source of inspiration, that even in these dark times, art can inspire and encourage you, just like poetry, just like writing. Those things are there not just to entertain, but to encourage, to make you feel good, make you feel better. And I always find that when I look at a piece of art, I feel better. And I hope that art will do that for everyone else. Thanks.
Amen. I couldn't have said it better than that. Thank you so much, Malaika. It's a pleasure to have you on, and thank you for being a part of the gallery. Thank you for spending some time with us today.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, Malaika.
Bye.
All right. So thank you to Malaika. It's certainly a wonderful artist member at the gallery. We're pleased to have her and happy to have her join us today. We're going to shift gears now and go to a different artist. I mentioned before, Davis Kelley is an artist who participated in our Flat Curve Gallery. Again, if you are not familiar, please go check it out at batonrougegallery.org. But Davis has some really interesting stuff that he's worked on and actually working on now. So let's go ahead and bring him on, and we can talk a bit about his work. Hi, Davis.
Hello.
How are you today?
Good.
Good. Thank you for being with us. Thanks for taking the time.
You're welcome.
I hope we're not taking you away from any important video games or anything like that.
No.
Okay. So for those of you who, or for those of the people who are watching who are not familiar with you, I know you're a big star overseas, in Europe and in Asia, right? You're really famous over there.
No.
That's not what I heard, but whatever. For those of us who are not familiar with you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? How old are you? What kind of art do you like to make? That kind of thing.
Well, I'm 9, turning 10 in June, and I like different kinds of art. Like I like sketching and I like canvas art. And I've been playing the piano since I was 3, and I have a dog.
Sounds like a great bio to me. Tell me about the piano. You said you've been playing that since you were 3?
Mm-hmm.
I never mastered chopsticks, so that's really impressive. What kind of music do you like to play on the piano?
I like playing romantic and classical music.
Nice. So in addition to being a visual artist, and I'm guessing that the artwork that we're seeing over your shoulder is work that you painted?
Yes.
Okay. So in addition to being a visual artist, you're also a musician.
Yes.
Wow, that is really impressive. Okay. So I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked Malaika a few minutes ago. Tell us, obviously this is a weird time that we're in where people are, staying home a lot more. Maybe us adults are trying to work from home. What has this been like for you, and how has art been a part of how you deal with COVID and being home more?
Well, being home more means that you can have more time to do different things. So whenever I finish my homework, me and my mom sometimes at night or something, we go out in our back patio and we just paint, and it just makes us feel better because that's everything that's going on. It makes you feel better and not have your mind on all the weird things that are going on in the world.
So for you, art ends up being kind of a distraction. It lets you think about something else for a little while.
Yes.
Gotcha. So the piece that you shared with the Flat Curve Gallery, and I've put the website up on the screen so anybody who isn't familiar with it can find it. But the piece that you painted for the Flat Curve Gallery, I think I see that over your shoulder. Would you mind sharing that with us?
Well, this is my Flat Curve Gallery painting.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever I started painting this, I didn't know really what to paint. So then it was like mid-afternoon and we were outside, and if you go out on our lake, you can see like trees and a sunset and different birds. So I painted that. So that's basically the end of our street where all the sun, where when it's at night or something, it gets like to where the sun's almost going down and it looks like that.
Huh. So we talked a little bit before we came on today. We talked yesterday, not to spoil the surprise of all of this, but when we talked, you were telling me about that, and you were telling me that you painted this while you were outside, while you were looking at the sunset. And I was asking you about, how do you paint something like that where the sunset is changing while you're painting? And, the birds that we see in that picture, the birds are moving and they're flying. So is it tough to paint things when what you're looking at is changing?
Well, whenever I get to the end of it, whenever I add all the last stuff and all, I look at it one last time and then I capture a picture in my head and I remember it and then I put it down on the canvas.
That is really cool. Okay. So, like I said, we talked about this before a little bit. And you were telling me yesterday about a project that you're working on, that you've been working on since you've been home because of COVID, that sounded so cool to me. And I wonder if you wouldn't mind sharing some of that with the people who might be watching today. Can you tell me what your favorite thing to have for lunch is?
Lunchables. And I started this project a while ago because I didn't just do it with Lunchables. That in the background is one that I actually made out of a pizza box.
The piece with the heart?
And so I'm working on it. So we cut out different things that we just have at home. And I started it and it's all black. And then this is what I'm working on.
Whoa.
And so I just found things around at home. And I just glued them on a canvas. And then those are things I do at COVID.
So you are not afraid of color at all?
No.
You know, a lot of artists end up being afraid of color and afraid of, let me take that away. You know, sometimes artists look at a blank canvas and they get scared and they don't know what to do. And that first brush stroke or that first mark they make can be a really kind of scary moment. Do you ever feel like that?
No, because I know if like something's wrong and I make the wrong brush stroke, sometimes I can either make it into something else or sometimes you can just cover it up.
What a beautiful answer. What a beautiful answer. I was telling you yesterday that the Lunchables project that you're working on kind of reminded me of another artist who shows their work at the gallery. And I told you he went to a big fancy university in Pennsylvania. And he's been a long time artist in Baton Rouge and shows work at the gallery all the time. And his most recent show, the one that was actually on the walls when we closed the gallery because of COVID, was all based on collage work with cereal boxes. And I was telling you that we would walk into work in the gallery and we'd be in this nice, pretty gallery in the middle of a park. And when we walked in every day, we were greeted by Captain Crunch and the Honey Nut Cheerios bee and all of these different characters that you see in the cereal aisle. And so what you're doing with those Lunchables is not totally unlike what actual professional contemporary artists are doing. You're kind of ahead of the curve at 9 years old. So we're going to have to get you in the gallery later on down the road, okay?
Okay.
Would you be okay with that? So there are some people out there, believe it or not, who have been a little bit afraid of making art or sharing art with the Flat Curve Gallery or with other things. And one of the things that we hear at the gallery a lot is people saying things like, I'm not artistic. Or the thing we hear a lot is, I couldn't even draw a stick figure, right? So my question to you, as somebody who clearly has some artistic talent based on the works we're seeing behind you, what would be your advice for somebody who maybe says something like that and is a little nervous or a little worried about making work or really making work and then sharing it with other people? What would be your advice for them?
Well, don't be afraid to try something that you've never tried before. Like if you were trying to draw something, don't give up if like you did something wrong, because you can always just start over and do it over and over again and it'll get better every single time.
And you can even use materials like Lunchables packaging and old pizza boxes, right? Well, is there anything else you'd like people to know about you or about your artwork before we end our talk? No, that's it. 9 years old, got a dog, likes painting outside, and enjoys Lunchables. Now, here's the fight that we had. Again, not to let everybody in on our conversation before the show, but we were talking yesterday, and we got into a little bit of an argument, right? You were yelling at me like crazy because you said that you like the Lunchables. Which ones?
I like the pizza and the nacho ones.
And I said that the better Lunchables are
the ham and cheese ones with the crackers.
Yeah. And I think we can agree. Feel free, if you're watching, you can comment in the comment section what your favorite Lunchables are. But I should warn you that the only acceptable answer are the ham and cheese with crackers. I respect Davis. I respect his artwork very much. His choice in Lunchables is a little suspect, but we're going to let that go. For art purposes, you can use whatever Lunchables you want. But for actual lunch, we have to agree to disagree. Sound good? All right, Davis. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. I hope we get to see you at the gallery sometime real soon, and hopefully one day down the road we'll get your artwork actually up on the walls and people can come and see it for themselves. All right. Thank you, Davis.
Thank you.
And as I say that, we have a comment from one of my fellow staff members, Kelsey Livingston, commenting that she likes the pizza Lunchables. And again, she is wrong. In any event, thank you to Davis. Thank you to everybody who's been a part of the Flat Curve Gallery. Like I said, it's a great project, one we've had a lot of fun with and one we're looking forward to keeping going. So if you haven't already checked out that project or become a part of it, there's absolutely no fee to do so. It's really just a couple of clicks from your computer and you can share images with us and then with the rest of your community. So as I mentioned at the top of the show, we are going to close out today's show with a really, really special guest. We are thrilled and honored to have with us Ava Leavell Haymon. She is the former Poet Laureate for the state of Louisiana, an incredible accomplished poet, does a lot of good in this community, not just within the written word and poetry circles, but elsewhere. So let's go ahead and bring her on. And if you would, please welcome Ava Heyman. Hi, Ava.
I'm so happy to be here.
We're happy to have you. Thank you very much. That's a tough act to follow with Davis, but
oh my gosh, I would both of those. Malaika is a long, years and years, good friend of mine, and she's really an inspiration, isn't she? The way she looks at things, and she's an inspiration to art. I don't, in my personal life, know anyone as productive as she is, she is, an artist means a maker. Any kind of artist is a maker. The word means that. And she, from the time she gets up, is making things.
Yeah. No, like I said, the last
too. I mean, she's got beautiful full-length books, and it's astounding. She's astounding. And then Davis, I couldn't help but notice his philosophy was so close to hers. It was hair-raising. How does he know that at 9 years old?
Because he makes so much art, it gives him time to think.
He said it gave him time not to think.
Well, that's another way of looking at it, I suppose. Well, thank you for taking the time. Like, as I mentioned, you're an incredible poet. I think a lot of our viewers might already be familiar with your work, but for those who might not be, can you tell us a little bit, give us, a little bit of your background as a poet and an artist yourself?
Okay. I have been writing poetry probably most of my life. I came from a family of words. My father was a preacher and my mother was a great storyteller and liar, not to put a patch on it. And all of that is made out of words, right? And Sandra McPherson, a poet mentor of mine, when I told her I was a preacher's daughter, she says, "It is astounding in our generation how many of the well-known poets are rabbis' children, preachers' children, from all the religions. She said their children become poets. And I said, why do you think that is? And she said, I think it was because they had a magic book in the house. And so they grew up knowing that words and alphabet is magic, and they wanted to make, we all wanted to make magic too. And I thought, you know, there's a lot to that.
Yeah. Well, in a minute, I'll ask you to share some of your magic with us. But before we do that, I mentioned that you were the Poet Laureate for the state of Louisiana. I think you served 2 terms. Am I right?
No, one. It's
Just one. I'm sorry.
I was Poet Laureate. The terms had been limited,
Okay.
2-year terms.
Gotcha. Can you tell us about what that means and what that experience might have been like for you?
Well, I'll start with what it means, which is it was a great honor. It's organized now by the Louisiana Endowment for the Humanities, and they convene a large committee. I mean, large, it must be 10 or 12 people. And they are the academics that teach poetry and poets from around the state, somebody from LSU Press and somebody from the LEH. And they then solicit, they have, before the committee meeting, solicited nominations. Now, anyone can nominate you and anyone can be nominated, but you then have to send in a massive pack of, you know, here are your publications, here are your books, here, and then most crucially, 5 poems. And so the committee then considers all of that, and they choose 3 actually, but until this last year they were ranked 1, 2, 3, and then that has to go to the governor, and then the governor has to submit it to the legislature. Sometimes it takes a long time to get your name through the process, but that's how you get to be it. But the part about about that committee, that's just a signal honor, because those people know, and their standards are really high, and that for me will be unforgettable. What you can do is basically up to you. There was someone at the LEH who was helping me. We sent a notice to all the librarians in the state, all the probably English department heads, all people like that, and said, here's the Poet Laureate. She knows how to talk about this, 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 and she would like to come to your community and do a reading. Well, then they would talk to that person to make sure it was somebody that wasn't, if somebody called them and said, we'd like her to come, they would be interviewed at the LEH. This was good, to make sure it was somebody who was able to, you know, get an audience there and actually get it organized. That was terrific. And then they would call me, and I would always say, I would love to come there. I would love to do this reading, but I want you to get me some gigs in schoolrooms. I want to see some poetry clubs. I want to see classrooms. I taught for the Arts Council of Greater Baton Rouge for years and years. And actually, I taught with Malaika, and that was the beginning of our friendship back a long time ago. That was our gig, you know. And so teaching in classrooms comes very naturally to me. And because I had done it so much, I didn't have to prepare. I walked in and I just knew what I was going to do as soon as I saw what the kids were like. So I probably saw, and I think this was the most valuable thing I did the whole time. I saw graduate students and talked to them about line breaks, you know, but I saw thousands of Louisiana school children, many of whom didn't know that a poem was actually written by a human being, because, you know, you hear all those things about how kids think. When you ask kids, some kids now, urban kids, where does milk come from? They say the grocery store. I think if you ask kids, where does a poem come from? A school book, duh, you know?
Yeah.
So, and just to talk to them about it, and I always incorporate in my, it's called an informant, actually. That is the techno term for an artist that goes into the classroom, because you talk to them about your art, you share your own art a little bit, and you help them make a piece of that kind of art, and that is an informant. So I could have them write a poem by the end of that time, and they didn't think they could do it. So then I would say, okay, just don't you get up there and say, like lots of other people, what'd you say? I'm not creative. I'm scared to do that. No, you have to call yourself a poet now because you have written a poem. That's all it takes to call yourself a poet. So I thought that I really enjoyed doing that. And then I did a number of things nationally, which was extremely interesting. And I found that people take you a lot more seriously when you have, a title. So I would say the same things I had always said at any reading, and when before I was Poet Laureate, I would say them, and people would go, roll their eyes like, oh my God, what a new agey chick we got here. And after I was Poet Laureate, I'd see the same thing, and people would go and nod,
right,
rub their chins. So I had a great time. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, you mentioned
years. There was a lot for, poets tend to be. I'm not shy, but I'm very introverted, and it was a lot of exterior time, being with people and being on all the time. Because if you go to Shreveport to do a reading, someone is assigned to pick you up, and make sure and have dinner with you and make sure you're comfortable. And it's lovely to get to know all those people, but it's also solid. Your time is kind of solid. So I did almost no writing during that time, but because it was just all outside. And but 2 years was perfect because I could throw myself into it, and I knew it was going to be over. I knew I could do it for 2 years, and did. And so, my philosophy is don't miss it. And really think I didn't miss it.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned the Arts Council and poetry, so perhaps we should take a second to offer some congratulations to Brittany Marshall, who just last night was the Poet Laureate for the city of Baton Rouge. So congratulations to Brittany, and thank you to the Arts Council and the Mayor's Office for having that designation, that award, be a part of our community. So congratulations to Brittany if you're watching.
And Brittany, if you happen to be watching, I was on that committee and I gave you huge marks on everything. She was incredible. And I knew her slightly. I mean, the people that were teaching her in the slam team were telling me about her. Oh, look, she's coming, come see her. So I had seen her probably from the time she was a freshman. She's outrageously good.
Yeah, she's read at the gallery a handful of times for a few different events that we've done. She's incredible. So very well deserved. So I would like to ask you the question that I posed to Davis and Malaika, which is, how has this COVID situation, this quarantining, how has this impacted your ability to create and write and kind of be and be in a creative space and, bring new work to the page?
Well, I have learned a whole lot from people's reaction to this. For one thing, like this that we're doing right now, arts organizations reach out and they want an artist to do something, right? It's like this intuitive idea that art is what people need in hard times. Now rub your chin, I was Poet Laureate. Art is something we all need in hard times. Thank you very much. We all at heart, we know that, And so I think I've done 8 of these sorts of things. And they're from far away. Like I was going to do a literary festival in Greensboro, North Carolina, which was of course canceled. And they got everybody that was going to come to do, to read and video my reading some poems and them reading whatever they wrote. And then they posted that. I did a full reading, like 30 minutes for uh, LSU Press, so that's online somewhere. I did one for the Louisiana Endowment for the Humanities. That's online.
So you've been doing more performing and reading than actually writing.
Yeah, well, I have been writing. Most interesting writing was also an assignment, which was from a choir program in Houston, Texas, and it's elementary school. I think it doesn't go all the way through mid school, but elementary school, maybe one more year. And it pairs, it's called Partner Schools. It's a great program. It pairs underserved schools and very overserved schools, if you know what I mean. And then they're a choir. Now, art is great because all those secondary things disappear, and music is the best one of those I know of for that. And if you sing in a choir, you bond with everybody in the choir while you're singing, and there's something physical about it. I always sing in choirs, and so unfortunately they had to go home, right, and not finish off they didn't get to have their end of the year concerts. They didn't, and they didn't, Barton Schools didn't get to have its fundraiser. And so they asked me if I would write a poem about the COVID-19, and then they would hand it off to a composer that I've worked with. And I actually brought a poem to read that this same composer has written a whole long piece with using it as text. And then so they hand it off to Robert Nelson. Robert Nelson writes a tune, and then they're making one of those layered, now I don't know what you call these, where each performer makes a video. They make a ground, you know what, you see that one? You saw the first one I saw was all those people singing from balconies in Italy.
Yeah.
What do you call those?
Uplifting, amazing.
Now, not the adjective. Anyway, where the tracks are integrated, and they can show everybody at once singing the same thing. They're doing that with this piece, and it's so much fun. If I'd known you were going to ask me about it, I would have brought some of it. Let me see if I can say some of it. I wish I could remember the tune. It was kids talking to adults and saying, "We don't understand this, and it's because you're not explaining it to us," right? It's so true. I think adults are scared. We were more scared when it first started off. Adults are scared. We don't quite understand it, but we understand a lot more than a kid, and we forget to try to explain it to a kid. And so they're demanding answers, and they're demanding some good definitions would go a long way. Like, why does a virus that doesn't have legs go to parts of the earth that I'll never go to? So it's those sorts of things. Yeah. But it has a refrain. We're tired of this. We're tired of that. We're tired of school on the screen. We're tired of food in cans, blah, blah. But mainly we're tired of washing our hands. Of washing our hands and counting to 20, of washing our hands, of washing our hands, of washing and washing and washing our hands. That comes over and over again. And then now it says, all over the world, kids are washing their hands. So what will we do when Earth runs out of soap? That's the rest. So
these are our worries.
Great fun. That was great fun. So yeah, things like that.
Awesome.
So,
well, I feel like we could talk, for a good long while. But since you said that you brought a poem with you, I feel like I should, close my mouth and let you take over.
Well, I would like to read this and I had no idea how appropriate it would be. Malaika goes back and forth between painting and poetry. Davis obviously is a musician and a poet, and I've always kind of split the difference like this between music and poetry, although I'm certainly not a professional musician, but I'm in my music phase right now, so I've done a lot of music actually during the COVID, but this one is called Watercolor Lessons. This poem is from Kitchen Heat book with LSU Press, and if you know some of the terminology of watercoloring, you point your brush. You're not supposed to do this, but you take your brush. If you want it to come to a point, you do that with it. And then my grandmother teaches us to do that this way, right? And then I get to be an adult and I'm told, you can't do that. Half of it. So Mycenium red, which comes up, is one of the poison ones. When you put a watercolor brush with color in it, you put it on the wet paper and it just goes. So you don't have very much control. It's not a pencil where you can draw a line. You're just always going out. So I knew how to make a sunset, right? Here's the horizon line. Here comes and there's the sunset going back like that. Now that sunset he did, Davis did some knockout. Mine weren't that good. So high rag content. Watercolor paper has a very high rag content. And Judy Betts, who has sometimes been a member of the Baton Rouge Gallery, she taught me to do a watercolor. You look at the surface of things as you see them, and you look at the places that are solid white, like say this. And before you do anything else, you try not to conceive of what's going on in the surface. No storyline, no person, couch. You outline the white stuff. And then you paint around it. So that all works its way in here. Watercolor Lessons is the name of it, and it has four parts, but the lines are short, so it goes by quick. Watercolor Lessons 1. 4 girl cousins apprenticed to a grandmother. Camel hair brushes swept to a tip between our lips, puckered into a little O. Southern prissy tease, kiss me not. Mycenium red pursed in these lips, we mark what we kiss. 2. I never progressed past the sunsets. My blobs of wish-wash color seep into each other, lose value, go ruddy or dull. Sometimes an old woman with floating hair that shines through like fine paper, comes up behind me, thin lips, tight to point the wet bristles. She reaches past me without pause, without speech, one touch. That dot spreads on its own into round shoulders, an egg basket, maybe a swag of shadow, and the paper horizon folds back away from me into distance. When I look around, she's gone. 3. Paint rings around the light. High rag content bears the weight of reflection. Believe your eyes, she insists. Draw the patches of blank white light. The rest is only color. 4. Let the tamed hands go, she whispers. Forget, what offense is, or how a good neighbor hammers one together. That surface you've come to trust, you'll see it melt. The color fail, unwilling to countenance the heat, the dead weight of perspective and volume. Be sure to leave some plain white paper, unparalleled, unlikely, or ragged with leaf shadow. Moments wobble of earth against star, this way, only once. The shape-shift light reaches out for you, still in the old way, when it wanted to tell you something. Before you ignored my lessons, rehearsed your eyes to the wishes of strangers, grew up, and forgot how to see.
Wow. Oh, thank you so much, Ava.
Art Gallery, you're welcome.
Oh,
thank you.
That was wonderful. Let the tamed hands go. That's a great way for us to end this. That was beautiful. Thank you so much. For anybody who would like to read more of your work or get their hands on one of the books, I believe most of your books are printed through LSU Press, correct?
Printed through LSU Press. They're always at Cottonwood, or he knows how to order them if they're sold out. This is Kitchen Heat I was reading from, and this might be the most accessible one. Yeah, but I'd love for people to read more.
So where can they find them? At Cottonwood Books or LSU Press?
Cottonwood Books or LSU Press's website. My website.
And your website is?
I don't know. It's my name, avaheyman.com or something like that.
Okay. Beautiful. Just beautiful.
I don't know.
Well, thank you so much, Ava. Thank you for taking the time to be with us today. Thank you. Ava has read at the Sundays at 4 program at the gallery for a number of different times, for a number of different reasons, a number of different programs over the years. So thank you so much for being a supporter of the gallery. You and Cordell both. We love you guys, and thank you for everything. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you.
All righty. So thank you to Ava. Thank you guys for being a part of Artists in Residences today. We hope you'll take a minute to go and learn more about these artists, whether that's Malaika Favorite, Ava Leavell Haymon, or Davis Kelley. And you can see his work, like I said, as part of the Flat Curve Gallery at BatonRougeGallery.org. Again, if you are not already a member, you can become a member and help the gallery continue to connect artists and audiences right here in your city of Baton Rouge and throughout the state of Louisiana, really, because we have artists ranging throughout the state and even a little bit beyond the state as well. But your membership, your donations, they make a world of difference. Literally every dollar counts. And that's one of those things that you hear nonprofit folks say all the time, but I promise you, it really does hold true for those of us who are running nonprofits and trying to keep them afloat, even especially during a time like this. So thank you to all of our members and donors. We'll invite you to please join if you are not already. And like I said, keep an eye out for the gallery to reopen on June 3rd, Wednesday, June 3rd. We will open back up at noon with a special group exhibition featuring more than 24 artists. We will have painting, sculpture, photography, and everything in between. It'll be a great opportunity for you to come and enjoy some original art after being stuck at home for so long, and get a sense of the diversity of the art that Baton Rouge Gallery's artist roster has to offer you. In the meantime, you can certainly go to BatonRougeGallery.org/artist-members, and there you can see works from more than 60 artists. There are literally hundreds of works that are available for you to purchase. You can make an inquiry on specific pieces, and we can let you know about shipping costs, the availability of those pieces, anything that you need to know, any questions you might have about specific pieces. So thank you again for being part of Artists in Residences. Tune in again on Tuesday for our next episode, and keep up with us at Baton Rouge Gallery, and come see us after we open on the first Wednesday of June. So thank you guys. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you again soon.